person and is being recorded by the Auburn Cable Television, and all are welcome to join us in person here at 5 West Street. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body is available on the town's website, and the public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. Thank you. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The vision of the Auburn Public Schools is to educate and prepare students for the opportunities and challenges of a changing world. We will create, maintain, and support an environment that fosters a sense of belonging for all students in our schools, respecting race, color, sex, religion, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, homelessness, poverty, spoken language, and ability.
All right, thank you, Dr. McCrillis. Do we have anyone here for citizens' comments tonight? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to special recognitions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So tonight, it's a bit unfortunate that our new board member is not here, but we'd like to recognize Chloe Chang, who joined us just recently on this school committee. Was recognized as the Telegram and Gazette Student of the Week. Chloe was nominated by Auburn High School math teacher Lisa Healy. Lisa wrote, "Chloe's a senior. She's an exceptional scholar who consistently ranks among the top students in her class, earning admiration for her maturity, authenticity, and insatiable thirst for knowledge. Beyond academic excellence, she exemplifies compassion and a deep-seated commitment to making a difference in the lives of others. She became an active tutor with Schoolhouse World, a free online platform dedicated to supporting underprivileged students globally. Throughout high school, Chloe's extracurricular choices have been deeply intentional, driven by a desire to expand her knowledge and contribute meaningful to others. Rather than pursuing activities for the sake of building a resume, she has consistently chosen to engage in endeavors that reflect her values and purpose. Chloe has set a remarkable example for her peers, and we are immensely proud of all she has accomplished and the bright future that lies ahead." So we are very proud of Chloe, and we're happy that she is on our committee, and thank you for all her hard work.
Yes, looking forward to congratulating her in person when she's back, so that's great. Good for her. Okay, is that all we have? Yes. Seek approval for the minutes from February 5th, 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from February 5th, 2025.
I will second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Vote. And we do have student reps tonight, so I'll turn it over to you guys.
Lovely.
Hello.
Hello.
So I hope everyone had a good first week start to their week from break. I just wanted to mention that the Polar Plunge is quickly approaching on March 21st at Auburn Middle School. I encourage everyone to sign up. It will be a great day, and you can find the links to sign up across all social media platforms, as well as on their website, specialolympics.org. Winter sports are also coming to an end, and the spring season is starting up on March 17th. And then tonight is very exciting because it is the first round of playoffs for our boys hockey team, and the student section is dressing in red, white, and blue for USA theme, and the whole boys hockey team bleached their hair.
Oh, boy. Oh, can't wait to see that. That's
The
fun.
National Honor Society is having their induction ceremony for the newest members on March 6th. On March 4th, the Students for the Environment Club is hosting a fun movie night on a blown-up movie screen inside the high school gymnasium. They're going to be watching The Lorax from 6 to 9 p.m. Admission is $5, and snacks are going to be there. They're going to be sold. Prom is coming up soon as well on May 10th, which people are looking forward to. And also this week, students are picking their courses for next year.
Wow. We're moving right along. That is crazy. And I think somewhere in there, I don't know if it's the 21st as well, but Fame is doing a dinner. I don't know. I thought I saw something.
It is
about
the
that.
21st.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So just throwing that out
Yes.
there too.
Yeah, and there's a
the
bunch
high
of things.
school?
I'll have a notice going out on Friday. and
Okay.
That's included in that.
All
yes.
right. Yeah. A little fundraiser for them. So
I think that's also Auburn Youth and Family Casino Night. Is that the same?
Yes.
21st.
busy
Yes.
day.
Yes.
All right. Great. Thank you very much, girls. That was a great
Yeah,
report.
nice to see you.
Yeah. Nice to see you. I'm glad you guys made it. We missed you. All right. I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Chamberlain, for the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Yes, so we have no student spotlight tonight. with the change of dates, it goofed up folks that were going to come, so we'll have someone another time. This is the second posting of the Auburn High School Program of Studies, but as you heard, the hockey team is in the playoffs. We had to have either our athletic director or the building principal at the game. So he had planned to come here, but he needed to be at the hockey game. So, and Dr. LeBon was unavailable this evening, so we will have this on the next agenda. So the next item is the FY '26 budget that I'd just like to provide you all with an update. So as you know, we began this budget process with a 5.7% increase from last year. The budget now stands at a 4.3% increase. Some of the reasons why we were able to come to that number are included here. So as you know, we received our transportation bid. I talked a little bit about that the last time. But since then, Mrs. Stanik's been able to work with AA Transportation. So they initially came in at, we had budgeted for a 10% increase. They came in at 9, and she was able to get them down to 8. So that was a really good move in the right direction. So we adjusted the budget for that. We actually, since we last met, had a teacher who has requested to extend their leave from this year through next year, and we are not going to replace that position. But that was a savings of $98,000 by not replacing her because of where she is salary-wise. So if you recall, the last time we met, we talked about the potential for the cut of 4 positions. But all those 4 were all estimated at about $52,000 because obviously it would be positions for folks that are new to us. So this actually covers almost 2 of those. So that was a change there. We did find something that had been missed. We have a teacher who's retiring next year, and we hadn't adjusted the salary down as we normally do because we'll now hire someone less experienced. So we made an adjustment there. We continue to have a placeholder at Auburn Middle School for a position that won't be filled. I don't know where that position will land based on enrollment, but we do still have that placeholder. Mrs. Stanek did some digging, and we realized we were able to use some satellite and galaxy funding a little bit more aggressively than we had in the initial budget. So that was an increased offset of $35,500. And so because of that position at the high school at $98,000, we were able to continue to include both of the positions at Swanson Road and the Bryn Mawr Pack one that had been in as $1 placeholders. So those are back in the budget. And we did, again, we showed a decrease in the general education transportation and special education in-town transportation to reflect the bid and the negotiating that Mrs. Stanek did with AA Transportation. Along with, we've included now the increase in the transportation fees and the parking fees, which is roughly about $33,000. Along these same lines, so on Monday evening, the select board transmitted the budget as presented to them to the finance committee. The budget presented by the town manager on all the departments in town, for our budget, what they reflected was $155,367 less than this 4.3% budget. And that was, they are working very hard to not go over the 2.5% tax and to not access excess levy, the excess tax levy. So in order to do that, that's how they met what they're trying to hit, their target. Now, what they have said to me was, part of this is also because they're not really sure about their state funding yet. So they could be additional funding that can mitigate that $155,000 hole that we're in right now. We too could see some additional state funding, completely unknown at this point, that could mitigate that $155,000 hole. We just don't know that right now. And so it is a little bit of a waiting game, but at the select board meeting, I was asked if there's no additional funding, and if indeed there's this $155,000 hole, what else would we do? Well, our other choice is to cut positions, and that's what I said to them. The majority of our budget is payroll. We don't, all of our supplies, there's no big buffer in any of those other categories that we have. So it would be positions. Unless the additional revenue comes in, then that changes that, right? And to what degree there might be additional revenue, we don't know yet. So at this point, we're in a little bit of a holding pattern. But it is clear, as you know, the town this year is in negotiations with all of their units. And so they have a lot of unknowns, like we faced unknowns last year, right? So they're trying to balance that with not knowing where they're gonna land with all of that. So, certainly not where we wanna be, right? We don't wanna be in a $155,000 hole, but I do believe that in the end, we will resolve this in one way or the other. Whether we see some additional funding, or we have to make some difficult decisions, which I think, a couple of positions were put back in here because something unexpected happened. But if that something unexpected now doesn't help us in the way we thought, we may have to go back to the previous plan, right? But I believe that we really want to focus on maintaining the services we have for kids to the best degree that we can. And so I at this point, I don't know that there's anything we need to do. I'm certainly, happy to take your questions, but I think it's a bit of a hold right now to let's see how some other things play out. I believe they're going to put us as the school department on at one of the end meetings for finance to give some time for these things to shake out, because they're aware of that. They were very, the select board appreciated the fact that we tried to look at how we could pull in some revenue to the degree that we can. They were appreciative. They actually asked about the math program, which thankfully they are in support of us using that CIP money as well for that. So as always, I've never found the town to be anything but supportive in that way. Yet, as we know, right, there are limits to everything that we can do, and they're trying to live within those limits too. So I am hopeful that we are gonna land in a place that's gonna protect kids, and keep us well, but, yeah, it's a little bit of a pickle right now. So I don't know if anyone has any questions
Any
about any of
questions
that.
for Dr. Chamberlain?
Through the chair, I'm just, can we look at page 6? Page 6, it says grade 6 math, and then it's showing it's highlighted in yellow. Why is that highlighted in yellow?
So those two positions, right?
Well, I know the one below is a placeholder. You already said
Yeah,
that.
so that's the one that I had not adjusted the salary for the retirement.
Okay, and then, same thing on page 9. Can you, so I'm assuming that the comment on the top one is you're taking the money from satellite?
Correct.
And
Yeah,
then-
and this one, you know what, I'm glad you bring that up. We had not, so we do have a revolving account for non-resident tuition. So some of our teachers, right, they pay to have their kids come here, and we have in the past had a couple of kids tuition in, special needs kids typically, and so we decided to hit that account as well for that $50,000.
And then, same thing on page 12. I understand the top one, but what do you mean by kindergarten under the highlighted part where it's,
So that was, that position had been taken out previously, so it was put back in.
okay. And then, I see that's it. And then page 15, the one that doesn't say what it's for.
Yeah, so same thing, that had been taken out previously, that was the Swiss position that had been removed, that's now added back in.
I think that's, no,
I think toward the
I
end,
see that one, yeah.
yeah, there's on page 20,
Yeah.
is the adjustment to the offset for transportation.
Yeah.
And the amount was adjusted.
Now, I know that this has been brought up, but what is, I'm just trying to find it. So, in certain parts of the budget, it says classroom supplies, and I think that we need to clarify that. What does that mean? Because in the high school, it's 24,000, and then at another think AMS it's 17. So can we just clarify what that is used for?
Yeah, so that's used for everything. That's used for sticky notes. It's used for Epson bulbs for classrooms. Sometimes some additional, it'll even be tapped sometimes if, let's say, one English class needs some additional books because, trade books, because they might be falling apart, we gotta replace them. We might use it for that. There's a variety of things.
Copy paper.
Copy, yeah.
Okay.
It's a whole, construction paper, glue sticks, soup to nuts of the things that kids use in class. And it is somewhat based on enrollment to the degree that we can, right?
Yeah.
So the larger schools have the bigger amount in those areas. Thank you.
Okay. You all set, Sam?
Yes, I'm great. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Through the chair, I'm just gonna, again, ask if at all possible, I hear is some concern over all the increases we're making for our families, so if there are any more additional revenue, or not revenue, but additional ways with the budget, that we can maybe look at that in the future.
Yeah, so I think, depending on what comes in for the state through the town, and depending on what may come directly to us from the state, there could be some room for that.
Okay, great,
There definitely could.
awesome.
We just need to give it some time to see how it shakes out.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds great, thank you.
Thank you.
So I just want to make a point before we move on, just that this fluid document that we currently have going is truly as transparent as possible. I want to make sure that people know that they can access this document at any time, and if they don't know how to do that, then they need to reach out and find out how. But it is truly scrutinized by all five of us, and we are doing our due diligence to make sure it's a valid and purposeful document. It's also scrutinized by the Board of Selectmen, and it's scrutinized by the Finance Committee. And we also do have public hearings. So I just really want to stress to people out there that we are very transparent with this. There is no fluff. It is what it is, and I really do welcome people to reach out if they have questions about it. Instead of going on Facebook, reach out to one of us directly. We can explain it. I will not explain things on Facebook. I hope none of you guys will either. It's just not appropriate. But we are an open book, and I kind of get the impression that some people out there might think we're moving money around or we're being, malicious in some way, and we're just not. So I really want to just clear the air, make sure that everyone knows we are accessible, and we are willing to talk about this document. I believe in this document. I feel like you've done your best. I feel like, Mr. Keller, you have. I feel like, Jen, you've worked really hard on this too. I truly feel like this is a solid, good thing that we're putting forward. I do feel bad about the fees and whatnot, but we do have to come to the Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee with some initiative that we are trying to come in with some money, some revenue on our own, and not just hitting the general taxpayer up for more money. So I guess that's the end of my soapbox rant, but.
And to even go before that, we spend a number of meetings with the town when we're beginning this process as well, where we're looking at that through the lens of the town's finances, because that plays a big part of this. And so I am thankful, to Mr. Kazanovich and now to Dory Vecchio for the multiple meetings we had and the times that we worked around all this. Their assistance with getting us to CIP for the math program. So this starts in early October, right?
It started last year.
Yeah,
for this year's budget.
we don't just, it's not just a rubber stamp, like, let's pick a number and put it through. We've gone through every single line, and even that 16,000 with the person who's retiring, like, I was like, oh, that was like hitting a jackpot, and it was, the retirement came in late, so it wasn't something that had been like when we were first talking about all that, so it was an easy miss, but that makes a difference, So I agree with you, and I appreciate, I'm happy to talk to anyone as well. And, if there are new ways that we can do some things, that's great. But there's been a lot of things that we have done in new ways to save money, We are a heavy payroll organization, as we should be, to support kids.
Right, and I feel our teachers and our staff are worth it. It is 80% or more of our budget.
Yep.
And we have a lot of fabulous, great teachers, so, sorry.
And through the chair, I think that I can speak for all of us that we 100% want what's best for the kids.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so we, you know, like you said, I welcome anyone to reach out. But at the same time, like, I know I will not communicate on Facebook. It's just not appropriate. My email is available. Everyone's email is available. So, but I know that when I came on this board, I wanted what was best for all the students in Auburn. All the students, and I want them to get the best education humanly possible. I want to be proud, and I am proud to be an Auburn resident. But I want to continue to be that way. So.
And I think class size plays a huge role in that. So, I mean,
Absolutely.
my hesitation is, we don't want to cut staff and everything, but I see all sides of it, and yeah, it's a hard situation. But we will get through it, and, the state funding, I feel optimistic that good things are coming, hopefully, knock on wood. So.
And I think it's important to note that our teachers do so much
Yeah.
behind the scenes that none of us even know.
That none of Facebook knows. Yeah,
They
nothing.
are-
They're always
I
going,
mean,
going,
I can
going,
think
all
of-
summer.
20 stories just with my 3 children alone, so kudos to them.
Yeah,
I
truly.
think about the teachers that go to ski club after school and they watch those kids until like almost 8 o'clock at night. Like that is dedication right there.
It's a job that I want, and I appreciate that they do.
So more to come.
Yeah.
More to come.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is just giving you an update. So at the last meeting, you voted to approve the additional, I think it was about $83,000 out of stabilization, and then I have to go to the select board, which I did on February 10th, and they approved the use of the stabilization fund for that residential placement. So we appreciate, again, their support in doing that. Just as another plug at the elementary level, very soon, our K-5 report cards are going to be electronic. They will be accessed through the parent portal in Power School. We're a few years into that returning student registration, so now all of our families have accounts, which should make this easier for folks to access this. Letters have gone home at the elementary level, and there'll be more communication coming out as we near the report card distribution. So we will see how that goes.
Wow, we are so high-tech.
So high tech.
I think it's great. I think it's fabulous. We can
Yeah.
save some money on some
Save
copies.
paper.
and-
Yes, yes.
And then the parents that don't get them because their kids like
Hide
in the
'em in their
bottom of their backpack,
Yeah.
lunch spills on it, so we're good. We're
Yeah.
getting there.
All right, the good stuff. So we'll move on to new business.
So in your packet, you're going to find a cell phone toolkit that we received from the Attorney General, Andrea Campbell, sharing with the Massachusetts school community about initiatives related to cell phone use in schools. This was precipitated by her concern on the impact that cell phones were having on a student's experience in school, whether that be as a simple distraction or whether it be through a serious case of bullying or whatever it might be. And so Mr. Keller and I met with Mr. DeLongchamp, Mr. Carlson, actually, it was Dr. LeBaume, Mr. Carlson, and Dr. Lopez, because we do have a number of students at Swanson Road who have cell phones as well. And so it was really just a preliminary meeting to begin a conversation about, do our practices meet the needs of our kids? And are we appropriately supporting them, given that we know cell phones in many ways have a detrimental impact on not only the mental health of kids, but their ability to attend and just as a distraction. So I give that to you for your review, and I also included in your packet just a very short sheet on what our current practices are. Seemingly at this time, as long as these are implemented by everyone, particularly at the high school, the initial feeling was that it works okay. However, implementation can sometimes not be consistent, which then disrupts the whole process, right? If one person doesn't follow through with putting them in the, whatever they are, the caddies, it can become a problem, because now you might have a student in the hallway with a phone, and they're on the way to the bathroom, and they're doing and saying things they shouldn't be saying. So I wanted to share it with you. I would look for any feedback you might have related to cell phone policies that you may have heard of. I do believe in the coming weeks that we're going to put together a committee of some stakeholders to talk it through. Do these practices that we have in place meet our needs, or do we need to change them? Do we need to formalize them? I'm not gonna make that decision myself, right? This is a big conversation. We've all become so dependent on them. I will say that we've also, in this conversation, the book,
Anxious Generation.
Anxious Generation. If you have young children, I urge you to read this book and the impact that social media, not so much the cell phone, but social media has had on the mental health, particularly girls, but also very, very impactful on the mental health of boys. And it's a marked change that was, scientifically noted as this is when it happened, is when social media really hit. Back when you had the flip phones and you had to, it was 3 taps to get to the third letter, you took a little longer, right? And you didn't have access to a social media platform per se. But it really has had a detrimental impact on kids. And I would venture adults as well, right?
Absolutely.
Very easy to go down a rabbit hole.
Through the chair, if there is a committee and you're looking for someone for school committee on it, I would very much love to be on that.
Okay.
And that was going to be my next question, I guess, is how can people join this committee?
Yeah,
You know,
so
what's-
we're at preliminary, we just
Yeah,
met.
just an idea,
So we just
so.
met, yeah. So that would be something that I'd put out in a communication, and see, we'll have to determine, I haven't even thought about how many people might make sense. I'm certainly going to want some students on there, right? I think their voice is going to be really important to have as a part of that.
Teachers, parents.
Yep, teachers, parents, yep, administrators, I think the more folks at the table, the better. But again, as we sit today, it doesn't seem that we have a really bad problem with cell phones in our buildings right now, right? Now, do we have issues with cell phones? Yes, we do, so don't misunderstand my words. But for the most part, in large part, kids are following and teachers are following what's laid out here, and it's helping to minimize access. But, there are still times when there has to be an intervention. So I do think it's a worthwhile conversation, just because of the influence it has on all of us. So more to come, but there's some good information in that packet, so.
Yeah, I did read through this. I mean, there is the 3 levels. I like how they broke it down. There's
Yep.
extreme to very loose, and
Yeah.
somewhere in the middle is the next one. But, and they give the curriculum ideas and everything. It's really a valuable beast of a document for a beast of a problem, so.
Well, and I actually thought about Spencer Kennard's students that came and talked about
was
the
very
Common
good.
Sense Media
Yes.
and what they were doing with that, and, just charting their notifications that they get over the course of a day, and how disruptive and how overwhelming in numbers that was. Some of those kids would be great voices
Yeah, definitely.
to have at the table, because they're really thinking about it deeply.
And through the chair, I think that we may even want to update some of it, because it just says current cell phone policy, but in here it said something about any person, it said headphones and things like that. I think we're starting to see more of the AirPods in the ear and
And the watches.
and the watches, yeah. So I think that there's, maybe this needs to be hashed. There's nothing, as you said, we're not having a big issue, but someone could look at this and say, well, it doesn't say an iWatch, so they can
Yes.
really pick that apart. So I think that maybe it's time, if the basic is if the basis is working, stick with it, but just add, define what a
Yeah, and
personal-
honestly, this is as formal as this has gotten. So I just wanted to put on paper what's happening right now. It isn't even that formally at this, written out at this time. And so I do think that's something that you all have to have a say in. But I think the best way to do that is to get a bunch of people together and really talk it out, so.
And
Yeah.
figure out implementation and follow through, basically.
Yeah.
We need the teachers, unfortunately, to be the big bad bears and,
Yeah.
Through the chair, I noticed Auburn Middle has them in their backpacks in a way, and Auburn High School has the caddies. Any feedback on which one works better, or is it just different because of the age groups?
I think it's a little bit different because of the age groups,
Okay.
honestly.
Yeah.
I think off and away at the high school, I think that's gonna be a losing battle.
Yeah, well, I mean, like off and away in their backpacks versus putting a burner phone in the, I've heard of, the burner phones in the thing, and I don't know.
Yeah, and the other one in their pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know my students have done that on testing, so.
yeah, yeah. And I don't know that, so they even say we discussed the Yonder pouches, right, that some school districts have. They said the same thing. So the kid puts a
Burner
fake phone in
right.
or a burner phone in the pouch, and they keep the other one on them all day. So, once upon a time, I was a wily high school and middle school student, and they're
Lots
going to
smarter than
continue
us.
to, right? It's part of that growing up, I think. But I think the big thing is if we can, in a thoughtful way, help them to see that this is helpful to them, I think it'll be good, right? That's the whole idea. And honestly, I think it would be good for all of us, because I think we're all a little too dependent sometimes, right? So,
And I also think, through the chair, that, like, we need to really spell out, like, for kids with accommodations that, like, medically need their phone on.
oh, sure,
So I
Yeah.
think it's a good thing we're heading down that road, so.
yeah. And I will say, Swanson Road, they don't really have any trouble in the halls or anything like that because of the nature of the school, but we do have issues on the bus.
Yeah.
Because once they get on the bus, they take the phones out and, just recording someone that doesn't want to be recorded and, the things that kids do, and that's concerning, But then I have parents who, that's how they track their kids. So that'll be a piece of that too,
that's how I track my children, yes.
There are some bus companies that you can track, like on the bus. There's like an
They
app
all
for that.
have the
Like,
cameras.
through the
They all
chair.
have dash cams.
Not the,
No, it's.
not like
almost
visually, but
Life
like
360,
where they are.
They can
Yeah.
track it.
But
So
through the chair,
AA
like,
can track their buses. They know exactly where their buses are all the time.
Yeah.
AA does. So, like, there have been times that I've said to them, I need they call it their Zonar, and it can literally show me, like, every, 2 minutes or every minute and a half where the bus is. It gives an address.
but through the chair, if parents do track their children using Life 360, it does show the last known location, even if the phone's off. So I can see that my daughter's last known location was at AMS. And so I'm okay. I'm like, okay, she's there. I'm good. And then I know her phone shut off for the day. So, and then as soon as she turns it back on, it will ping again, and I'll know that she's moving again. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like it shuts off and then deletes where the person is.
Yeah. So, it's already, right? This has been a conversation, so I can imagine that everyone will have something to say about this for sure.
And a lot of good ideas will be added to
Yes.
this.
Absolutely, things we haven't even thought about.
Yes. All right, the next item, again, is a routine sharing of the Southern Worcester County Educational Collaborative second quarter report, as we are required to do, to share with you. So just an update there. They're doing some great work. And that's all I have for this evening.
All right, thank you very much. We will move on to teaching and learning. Mr. Keller.
Good evening, everyone. So I most recently talked about the committee that we've had studying a math textbook, grades K through 8, at our February 5th meeting. So I wanted to update you on that, if I can scroll. So I mentioned this in passing last time, too. We started in the fall of 2023 as a K through 5 and a 6 through 8 committee, and then ultimately we renewed big ideas at the middle school so that we could assess K through 8 together, believing that potentially it would make a lot of great sense to have a common textbook K to 8. So we evaluated that together. I won't go through each point on the timeline, but it's been quite a while that we've been together, reviewing data, identifying. So HQIM is high quality instructional materials. That's you've heard me say that a couple of different times to you, but that is a major initiative on the part of the Department of Education. and I'll talk about that very briefly in a second. We narrowed our list down to 5 publishers based on the high-quality instructional material list. And then in the fall, we identified finalists. 2 of those publishers that we brought forward felt like we could that would fit well in our school system at the K through 8. And then our last step in this was evaluating some major pieces of data. So that's obviously looking at the materials themselves. We went on site visits, as I mentioned last time. And then the last piece of this that I hadn't mentioned to you in our previous visit was we did a Q&A with each of the publishers and then collected survey data from a lot of districts throughout Massachusetts. So that was our timeline. Very quickly, I won't bore you with HQIM, but it is from Department of Education. It's an initiative on their part because they believe strongly that with the right textbooks, with the right curriculum materials, we can narrow opportunity gaps, accelerate student learning. There is a lot of evidence that suggests that with high-quality instructional materials, you can have an equivalent standard deviation of essentially a 0.10 standard deviation, which is equivalent to the difference from a teacher who's in his or her third year compared to a teacher who's in his or her first year. So their research suggests that it is significant to have the high quality instructional materials. We have 2 resources that we lean heavily upon in Massachusetts. The first is EdReports, which is a national organization that studies textbooks throughout the country. And then Curate is Massachusetts' version, essentially, of EdReports. So Curate pulls information from EdReports, but also puts a Massachusetts twist and has Massachusetts educators looking at these materials to make sure that they're appropriate for our state. So I think I mentioned this last time. So we identified 2 finalists, and they were iReady, which is from Curriculum Associates, and Reveal Math, which is from McGraw-Hill. So up on the screen or in your packet is the Massachusetts particular standard, which is Curate. So the left-hand column is iReady, and so on those 4 criteria, content, standards, and organization, grade appropriate practices, accessibility for students, and usability for teachers, iReady met the standards, which is the highest rating you can possibly get. Reveal Math met the top 3. And then partially met in terms of usability for teachers. And Reveal Math was received a critique for falling short in providing strategies for students with disabilities is where they lost a couple points. So then the next slide is in EdReports, and so same thing. They have a lot of criteria, EdReports does, but they all fall under these 3 areas: focus and coherence, rigor and mathematical practice, and usability. You can see that both textbooks met expectations. And once again, iReady scored higher than Reveal Math in the usability, where Reveal Math lost 2 points in that usability category. And Reveal didn't get the full points because one of the areas was the adult providing materials for the adult so that the adult can be learning the math as well. Whereas they felt iReady did a much better job in that. And then mathematical practices in Reveal were not identified in formative and summative assessments is where they lost 2 points there. So those were those 2 pieces. And so ultimately, as I mentioned, we did a Q&A with both publishers last week on separate days and had I wouldn't say lengthy conversation. I expected it to be a lot lengthier than it was, but it was pretty clear on the representatives from the committee that we felt iReady was the best represented where we are, where we want to be. And so it is our recommendation that Auburn Public Schools adopt iReady Classroom Mathematics, that's K through 8 textbook. And very briefly, I'll just kind of go into why. I think you may be aware that we've been using their diagnostic in K through 5 math and ELA for several years now. We have found their diagnostic to be outstanding, really predicts where students are going and what we need to do with them. And so there is both a familiarity with it, but also an appreciation of the excellence that it provides. With that diagnostic work that students do in the classroom, they then, if you have the curriculum, the iReady math curriculum, it then provides personalized lessons. I put in a couple of these, some quotes from other surrounding districts. And so one of the districts talked about their personalized lessons as being exceptional. And, you know, it's not often that people rave about curriculum. You've heard me talk about that with the social studies curriculum when we went to investigating history. When teachers find something that they like, they will certainly talk about it. But more often than not, I feel like, it's okay. So when you see words like exceptional, and a little bit later you'll see where I talk about amazing, that stands out to me. What people liked about iReady, both when we went in person to the site visits as well as what was noted in the survey, was they have the multi-day design. So students have the opportunity to first explore something and just kind of get a little bit, things to get a little bit messy as they're exploring a concept. And then they learn to develop that and then refine their approach to it. So it's over the course of time, they're learning how to approach a certain task. In Massachusetts, we talk a lot about MTSS, which is Tiered Systems of Supports, supporting our highest level students as well as those students who struggle, and everything in between. And so people talked about with iReady, the differentiation is amazing. Supports for EL students on IEPs. Sorry, I put English learners in there twice. Ease of use, you know that we've been a universal design for learning district for many years now, and one of the teachers on the site visit, one of our Auburn teachers, talked about essentially iReady is kind of UDL at its core. And then lastly, the surveys that I sent out to surrounding districts, iReady scored a 4.6 out of 5 in terms of their professional development. And we've seen that firsthand in what we've done with them and bringing them in to work with our teachers as well as us as administrators around the diagnostic piece of things. They have excellent professional development. And then the support that they provide on the actual technical piece was a 4.83 out of 5. Again, scores that you don't often see when people refer to publishers. There's this kind of general feeling of publishers are in it to make money and don't really support once they make the sale, and that was not the case in what we're hearing from districts that are using iReady. So those are a couple of the reasons, and I also want to acknowledge, and I mentioned this last time, the committee. I'm just going to say their names really quickly because they put a lot of time and a lot of effort and into this process. So Allison Simoneau, Deidre Levesque, Gina Fermanic, Jillian Anderson, Kristen Sandberg, Nicole Lane, Tara Connor, Brooke Beverly, Cheryl Carlson, Kelly Connerton, Aaron Kane, Michelle Caplet, Paula Reno, Sarah Kay, Stephanie Fontaine, Susan Lopez, John Bastian, Marie Mahan, Monique Mazzone, and Jill Clough. Like I said, were outstanding in reviewing these materials, going out on site visits, and spending a lot of time together, sometimes virtually and many times in person. So we're excited to be able to say that iReady is the product that we think is great. I also want to mention, Dr. Chamberlain mentioned it earlier, it's a lot of money to bring on a textbook, particularly at K through 8. So we're excited that CIP monies are potentially able to be used for this purchase. And then the last piece I'll just talk about is next steps. So we're in the process of outlining a cohesive plan. We have a professional development day coming up in March, and so I've reached out to iReady, and they are prepared to meet with us on our K through 8 teachers to begin some work on professional development. And then, of course, we'll do work over the summer and in August, and we've built in 2 years of implementation support so that makes sure that we can get this off and running and it can be implemented with fidelity. Of course, we'll monitor implementation of the program, which includes classroom walkthroughs, looking at data through iReady and other diagnostic tests, MCAS data, feedback from teachers, students, and families, and then, of course, making sure that we educate families in the new program, because families obviously are supporting their children at home, and they'll need to have an understanding of how they can how best do so.
All right. Wow, great. That's a lot. Does the committee, I should know this, but we don't have to vote on that?
Yeah, I think we probably should. Yeah.
That's kind of a big purchase.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
should we do that next meeting or tonight or?
Depends how the committee feels.
Are we
We've talked
okay
about it
with
multiple
this?
times.
Yeah. Mandy?
We've already kind of allocated the funds, right?
Yeah, through CIP money.
Through
and
CIP
stuff.
money, yeah.
All right, if we are ready to vote, then
Ready.
let's get a motion on the.
Can I just ask one question?
Yes,
That's
of course,
already
sorry.
in the budget, like this iReady is in the budget that we just talked about?
It's not in the budget, it's through our capital improvement plan.
Okay.
So we'll be using which is a totally separate funding source
So
through
there's
the
no
town.
line, so
Not in-
nothing changes in the, okay.
Nope.
That's what
nothing
I needed to
changes.
know.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the iReady math curriculum for K to 8.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Thank you.
Good to go. That's exciting. So, one question. Will this iReady program help parents with the math homework?
No.
There's no help.
Through the chair, we use it where I work, and it's still very confusing. But I will tell you that AI does help.
That's what I
It's
use.
a gift.
It truly is.
And Common Core is
Yeah,
going,
ChatGPT,
so
I
we're
put
not
the
gonna have to worry
question,
about
it
it
tells
soon.
All right. Well, you know, you can't have it all.
try.
So. All right, we'll move on to the business and financial report.
All right, so I have provided you with a year-to-date budget report for the FY25 school year dated February 12th, 2025 for your review, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Ms. Stanek? Nope.
All right, the next piece is I have provided a memo detailing the busing bid results for the FY25 to FY28 school years. I am recommending that we award the bus contract to AA Transportation. And I just wanted to note that several vendors had requested the bid specifications. However, only one vendor did put it in the bid, which was our current provider, AA Transportation. And they did work with me. I was able to negotiate so that our increase is that of 8% increase in year one, a 7.07 increase in year two, and a 5.93% increase in year three. This bid also has the option to extend the contract for 2 additional one-year periods. However, we will come back and discuss that when the time comes. So I am seeking your approval so that I can go back to AA and award the contract. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions, Ms. Stanek? Nope, seeing none. Get a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the bus contract to AA Transportation, which reflects an increase of 8% in year one, 7.07% in year two, and 5.93% in year three.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, and thank you for doing all that work.
I just want to say,
Yes,
that was an enormous amount of work as a brand-new business manager.
And the wheeling and dealing and
Yeah. But just the actual construction of the bid, right, for it to go out to bid is a process in itself, because you have to specify all the little details that you need, and I just think Mrs. Stanek did a terrific job, so, terrific
Thank you
job.
so much.
Thank you. And, you know, Ron is great to work with, and we
He
had a
is.
successful relationship.
Yeah.
So,
Is
That
that
is
through
ma-
the guy who
Ron
runs
is
it?
the owner of AA Transportation.
Yeah.
Yep. And he's wonderful to work with and very understanding when I went back and said, you know, we're having budgetary concerns, and is there anything you can do to help? And so
Yeah.
we have been lucky.
We are very lucky to have them as our vendor. They are great to work with. You know, every place, nothing's perfect, right? And sometimes we have bus issues, but they really are very good to work with, very responsive. So I'm pleased that we landed back with them.
Yeah, good, and they are close, they're right in town, so, you know. Get local. Great, well, thank you, Ms. Stanek, for doing all that. And we don't need executive session tonight,
We do not.
so a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. And it's a vote. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Have a good night.